So we are recording the call, and it will be on the website, and we will provide people the recording of the call. With that being said this morning, we pray everyone is healthy, everyone's doing well, your families are well. There's a lot of information we have to share with you. We want to try and keep it to 11 to 12 o'clock type of call, so we don't take too long, but we do give out essential information. If people are still trying to get on or whatever, please have them text their site administrator, and we'll do a follow-up. But like I said, the call will be recorded, and we will share this information again. If you have questions throughout the call today, we're asking that you use the chat bar on the bottom, which I think everyone's been playing with. You can do chat. We may not get to every question, but we are going to try and respond to it real time as we're going through the presentation today. And if we don't, we're going to try to have some time at the end of the presentation to get to questions. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. Well, not coming out, but staying in. And being on the call, staying in wherever you are. If you're in San Francisco with me, hey, great. If you want to be in San Francisco with me, go play with your settings and you can do that, all right? But let's get started here. What we got going on. So just real quick, just some norms for our Zoom call. We're asking everyone to take an inquiry stance, meaning we're sharing information, we're sharing it together, we're working through it together. So please, let's ask things in terms of how to help us all get better and improve our system. Ground rules, statements need to be in evidence, not so much opinions or hearsay, evidence. We have data, we have some things that kind of give us reason for our statements. Assume a positive intentions. Right now, things are stressful enough. And let's everybody from the standpoint that we're going from the most positive standpoint of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do things. Stick to the protocol, hear all voices. Well, there's only going to be 1 or 2 voices at a time talking, so that's kind of easy. Start and end on time. We start on time, even though we have some technical difficulties, we'll work through so we can get more people on the call. We do know we have over 200 staff members, so we'll be working with Zoom and following up just to get that rectified. And we ask that for the next hour, just be here. Be present with us because we're present with you, and we'll get going. So without further ado, I want to say thank you, everybody. We have a lot to share, and I'm going to turn over to our superintendent, who is going to get us going with the agenda for today.
Hello. First of all, it's nice to see you. It's nice to see where you live. It's nice to see that Manny has so many toys in his room. That's a different perspective for Manny. It's nice to see all your different kitchens and things like that. So we're trying, like Will said, do something a little different. We're doing what we're asking you to do with your students, okay? So if I fumble through, if Will fumbles through, the intent is it's okay to make mistakes when you're talking to your kids, you're talking to your parents. The intent is we're trying to build our skill sets, mine included, Will's included, administrators, teachers, but more importantly, our kids. We want to have a level of comfort and a level of familiarity. That's the most important thing. So as we kind of go over today, and it is kind of content heavy, the intent of today's meeting is kind of designed in a way that I have been getting information, okay? So I've been on conference calls on a daily basis with the county superintendent of schools, who meets with the superintendents, all 80 superintendents on a county-wide call that then tells us, well, here's what the state is saying, here's what the governor is saying, making recommendations. They have people from every part of the division at LACO answering questions from curriculum instruction to special education to health, so I can get the most pertinent information. So all of the decisions that I'm making are based upon the recommendations that I get from LACO, which are the recommendations they get from the state superintendent of public instruction, as well as the governor. As you know, earlier this week, the governor, Tony Thurmond, or not the governor, the superintendent of public instruction, Tony Thurmond, had a memo that he was working on leaked because it wasn't supposed to go live, but it was basically saying, I don't think that schools are going to be open for the rest of the year. That just parrots what Governor Newsom's had been saying for the last few weeks when he originally said, as a father, as a dad, I have to tell my kids something, and I have to tell them that I don't think that school's going to take place. So this week, the superintendent of public instruction and the governor yesterday, they had a webinar, and they still kind of tiptoed around it by saying, we think as if school will not be coming back, and it's important that in the abundance of caution, we prepare all of our teachers to move more into a distance learning kind of platform for our kids for the rest of the year. LACO put out a memo to all superintendents yesterday, basically saying we believe and are going to go with the recommendation of the State Board of, or the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurman, to cancel school, close school for the remainder of the year. Okay, nothing is mandated. It is, here are the recommendations, but I'm not going against the recommendations of LACO. Every time I've dismissed the school, I've taken LACO's recommendations, who has taken the Department of Public Health. Okay, so that's kind of the flow of how I get information with results or with regards to how I'm making decisions, and I share it with the board about what we need to do here in the district. I asked you and the parents to do surveys, and no one likes to do surveys, but at a time like this, I really have no other way of communicating with you. I have no way of really knowing how you're feeling, what your needs are, and especially with parents, I have no clue. I can send out, here are my memos, here are my directives, here are what needs to be done, but I don't get feedback. So thank you for the people who filled those out. We had over 160 staff members fill out surveys, as well as close to 500 parents who did the surveys. And as we kind of decide how are we going to do a distance learning platform, it's not a question of disseminating Chromebooks. We have one-to-one devices for everyone in the district. Do the parents have Wi-Fi? Do they have hotspots? Are they capable of helping their kids? That's the question we need to ask. Part of what we were doing, in the past several years, is ensuring that in the classroom, students have computers in their hand, that we had high-speed internet, that we fixed all our connectivities at the school. We were not designed to send computers, the Chromebooks home. We don't have bags for them, a protocol to check them out, to let parents know that if something happens to them, it'd be about $250 to replace. So all of those things are things that we've had to fast track immensely. So before I go over a little bit about, here's some information that I want you to know. There are 3 levels of the surveys that I wanted to share with you. The first one was, how are you feeling at this time? And being a former school psychologist and having a master's in counseling, I'm very cognizant of the fact this is overwhelming everybody. Okay, all of you are educated people, you're doing the best that you can. But at a time like this, when there's so much uncertainty and all you're hearing on the news is just death and despair and biblical things, it's hard not to get down yourselves. Okay, so I had about 57% of the staff respondents say, I'm either feeling extra stormy, a little rainy, or mild. Okay, so more than half of you are kind of like the rest of the world, just kind of feeling like, I'm doing the best that I can. When I asked, are you feeling supported by your immediate supervisor at this time? Almost, I think it was 97 out of 147 of you felt like, yeah, I'm getting the information that I need in this kind of time of uncertainty. And the last one, which is meaningful to me and to the board, as I have been here for almost 30 years, and this is my going on my 12th year as superintendent, do you have confidence in the senior leadership team to make the right decisions for Los Nietos district at this time? And 70% of you said, yes, I do. I either agree or strongly agree. So I do appreciate that. I have nothing but the best intentions for all of you and for our students. Okay, so those are just some of the pieces of information that I took a look at to share with the administrators, to share with the board as we plan next steps. So as we go on to the next slide, I want to share with you kind of just how quickly things have unfolded. Back on March 11th, I did a presentation with the board just saying, here are the things that we've done. We've purchased all these wipes and purchased all these cleaning products, because right now there's only 27 cases in all of Los Angeles County, and there's only 1 death reported in all of Los Angeles County. That was on 3/11/20. I talked about how we're following the Department of Public Health's recommendations, following federal guidelines, following LACO recommendations. So right now we're taking extra precautions to ensure that the classrooms are sanitized and that we watch these things. 2 days later was the first dismissal date. So right after that presentation, things went to the LACO making the first recommendation. We need to extend spring break and dismissal. So a week before spring break, we dismissed the kids, and a week after spring break. So kids were supposed to be back next Monday on the original timeline. That was just 2 days after me doing a board presentation about, yeah, we need to do something because here's what we're doing to be proactive because it's already happening here in LA County. 5 days after 3/13, okay, you all did a very nice job of very quickly putting together learning packets that we needed. We were able to distribute all of them, except maybe 50 or 60 district-wide, and those got mailed home, okay? But also as of 3/18, the majority of the certificated and classified staff were gone. So the district has been very quiet. Doug has been a rock. He has been here. Rosemary, my assistant, has been here. I have been here. I'm going in and out. I've been here most of the week, but the schools are closed, okay? We don't have the secretaries with the exception of when we provide food for the kids. The schools are closed, and that's what we need to do at this time. So from the time that I asked you, please put together 2 weeks of learning packets for the kids, be prepared that we may go longer. On 3/27, I gave the second dismissal notice saying, LACO is making the recommendation that things are getting kind of, concerning. So let's extend this to May 5th. So right now, parents and staff are aware, this was last week, that we are not coming back until May 5th. Okay, so from that perspective, where are we now? In just the span of 3/11 to 4/2, which was actually the statistics are off the public health website as of yesterday, 3,500 cases in Los Angeles County, 38 deaths. 1 case in West Whittier, Los Nietos. When they first made this model, West Whittier, Los Nietos was not even put on there, okay? 15 in the city of Whittier, 8 in South Whittier. So it is spread, it is here, and the things that we are doing are designed to keep the kids safe, to keep you safe, and the only way we can ensure that we limit the spread of COVID-19 is just not to be here, which when we are going to a district distance learning initiative makes it extremely difficult if no one is here to help facilitate that. So I do appreciate the teachers and the administrators and the classified assistants who've allowed themselves to step into unfamiliar territory, to go on YouTube, to look at how to do things with your students. We have teachers who are doing videos, who are doing weekly chats already. The middle school was very aligned with Google Classroom and helping their students learn. So there's a lot of positive things going on. If there's one thing I wish we could do right now, it's just to show you all the things that are currently going on so you would have a sense of, okay, distance learning is something where we're moving to, but a lot of that has already taken place. So it's not that big of a leap, okay? So as of today, again, and school closure is on the horizon, and it's just a question of when I make that announcement, and I'll talk to you about my rationale in a minute, okay? So just in the span from 3/11 to 4/2, Los Angeles County, Whittier, these are our statistics. Los Nietos, these are our statistics, okay? Next slide. Okay, so everyone has been asking the principals and asking, okay, what are we doing? What am I required to do? Okay, so I'm going to break it down really easy for everybody. Here are the district priorities that I want, that I am working towards, and number one priority is to keep you and the students safe. Okay, so as much as I would like to be concerned about a lot of different things, the number one priority is making sure that you don't get sick, making sure that our kids don't get sick by keeping the schools closed for the rest of the year. I have to limit the access to the campuses. So again, if you should have your last time that you went to the school, picked up everything that you needed. If you need to get something, be prepared that you're not coming back. So if you need any of your TEs or you need any of your document cameras, anything like that, If you have to go and make one last step, go through your principal so we can limit the amount of people that are on campus at one time, but get everything you need and then get out. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. So in addition to limiting access to this campuses and the district, we're trying to maintain better communication with the staff and with the parents. So I'm going to be trying to put information out weekly to the parents. I know the principals are putting out information on Class Dojo, Remind, School Messenger, and usually I ask them to follow up with their message after my message goes out, and then they can just paraphrase, please look at the superintendent's message about school dismissal. Please look at the superintendent's message about feeding the kids, okay? So priority number one, so that we're all on the same page, I need to keep all of you safe. I need to keep all of you healthy, all of you well, and we need to keep our kids and families well, number one. Number two, we fed 100% of our kids a free breakfast and lunch before. Out of that 100% who got free breakfast and lunch and dinner, the after-school kids would get dinner. 85% of those students qualified outright because their parents were in a poverty level framework that allowed for them to get the free food. So 85% of our kids, before people got laid off, and the statistics for people getting laid off are astronomical right now. So all of our kids need to get fed. Okay, so we're probably going to be moving to 2 school sites next week. I'm going to need your help once I make an announcement for you to push that out to your parents and to your kids, because even though we did lots of all calls and school messengers and class dojos, we did not get a huge turnout of people. We got less than we did prior to spring break that week when you were putting your packets together. We had more kids. So maybe it's just a slow time frame, but I believe our kids can't afford not to have free food. And we are feeding kids no matter what school site you're at, you can go by and get your food. So we're not scanning anything. We're just trying to ensure the kids have food to eat. So that's the other priority. Those 2 priorities are coupled with our last one. And I just wanted, dispel and define what is a distance learning model. At the very base level, it's learning not in your classroom, it's learning from a distance. The State Board of Education, through the Superintendent of Public Instruction, through LACOL, have all said, to the 1,000 school districts in California, to the 80 school districts in Los Angeles, all of your plans are going to look different. Everything is going to look different. Whatever you do has got to be meaningful to you, to your kids. It's got to be supported through the teachers and the classified staff. But we're in a pandemic. We've never been in a pandemic before. They're ratcheting up things with regards to what is the requirements for distance learning. So we're moving away from the learning packets to more you having interaction with students, which I think is a good thing. Because again, going back to keeping staff and students safe, the students depend on you for normalcy. And if they live in a level of poverty, if they live in a level of difficulty with parents or grandparents before, and now their parents or grandparents are out of work, there's not any food, they're stressed out, the propensity of kids getting hurt, getting yelled at, all of those things go up as people are dealing with stress, okay? So it's imperative that we find meaningful ways for you to communicate with the kids, number one, so that they know that they're cared about, that they're loved, that we wish that we could see them and teach them, and maintain that level of trust, but also then build in with that we're able to provide the instructional continuity, okay? We will talk about in a minute, the waivers. We've gotten waivers from the state of California through the federal government about assessments. There's things still in the works. Things change on a daily basis. I get so many emails every day defining, about everything that comes out. They're talking about the LCAP. No, still work on the LCAP, but don't work on the LCAP. You've done your school plans, but keep working on your school plans, but don't work on your school plans. So at the end of the day, it's going to fall on me and the board to kind of define and help provide some clarity to the district staff. So in 3 fell swoops, let's keep our kids safe. Let's keep you safe. I want to see all of you back. I want to know that you have weathered the storm well. I want to know that during this time when people are losing their jobs, we've been able to feed more kids than we currently are, because I know the need is out there. I want to ensure that you have the skills necessary to provide online assistance and learning to kids, but more importantly, just to smile at them and to say, hi, it's good to see you. Oh, you have a nice house. Oh, that's interesting. Just like I made comment about Manny's dolls and toys on his wall. Oh, that's nice. Or Jim, I saw your kitchen, whatever. They need the normalcy. They need to know that things are not as scary, because for a little kid to process what's going on is overwhelming the way it's overwhelming for you. Hopefully the outcomes will be that we can maintain our instructional continuity, that we're able to manage staff anxiety, our students' anxiety and parent anxiety, and reassure our staff and students that we can get through this, okay? None of us had this on our list. None of this had this on, our calendar, that we would deal with a pandemic, that you would have to go onto YouTube, that you would have to take learning modules, learn how to FaceTime or to Zoom with people. But it is here with us. I know we can handle the challenge, as many of you already have, which I truly, truly appreciate. But from a psychologist perspective, with regards to dealing with stress and dealing with the ability just to manage things, we're kind of at a basic needs thing right here, not only with you, but your kids. Food, water, shelter, money to pay bills, basic needs. That's where, many of our parents and many of our students were to begin with. Now it's even worse, okay? You, as a staff, you may have family members, you yourselves. If you were like me, every time I cough, I ask myself, is that a dry cough or is that a regular cough? Oh, I feel hot. Is that because I just had some coffee, or am I having 103 point something? You can't help but do that because you're inundated with that information, okay? But for us, there by the grace of God go us, that your salaries are covered, okay? Teachers and classified will continue to get paid while you work at home. As we define what does that mean to work at home, because I can't, and I don't envision you putting in 40 hours of work from 7:30 to 2:30 at home. That's not realistic, but I do envision there will be training opportunities for you. There are opportunities for you to work with your kids. How do you maintain your own dialogue that's a necessity with your principal, with your colleagues? And how can you share, more importantly, the things that you have found out? We'll be creating links so that when you find something that is really outstanding, or you spent a day on YouTube searching something, you found a really good video that you can share as well. I had a conversation with the high school district superintendent yesterday, who assured me anything that I needed with his teachers doing Zoom lessons with you and trying to do a survey. What do you need? What sort of support might you need? That his teachers would be more than happy to help support through your learning, okay? So we have the supports here, but again, from me, from the board, let's keep ourselves safe. Let's know and keep in mind that our kids who are not in the best possible situation to begin with are already going to struggle for the next couple of months while we're out of school. And as we prepare and talk about what the distance learning model will look like, just break that down to the definition of a distance learning model is you're just learning from a distance, you're teaching from a distance. What that looks like, we're going to identify, we're going to help you learn. And we're going to be as consistent as possible, okay? Already, parents are looking at everybody's websites, looking, why is this school district disseminating an iPad and we're not yet? Why can't we do this? So we are rolling out information to the parents. Here's what our plan is. I was just in the MDC a minute ago, where there are brand new Chromebooks that we've purchased in bulk, so we can start pushing things out and start taking away some of our older Chromebooks from the carts, putting the newer ones in the carts, and using the older ones to send home to kids, because that's kind of where we are right now. So all of that has been processed. So again, as this is our first webinar, the hope is you will be able to put information and ask questions. If I see the questions, I'll try and interrupt Will as he goes on next and answer them. Otherwise, we'll just we'll answer them at a later date. A definition of the distance learning program broken down even more. We're basically saying school dismissal, and I'm thinking probably next Friday is when I'll make the announcement district and school-wide that we're going to be closed to the year. Parents already know we're closed to May 5th. I don't want to make the announcement about the school dismissal until I have, here's the website, here's the checkout process, here's how you can get information, okay? I didn't know who had Wi-Fi, who in need of hotspots, things like that. That was the rationale for the survey, to try and at least guesstimate using data to figure out what do we really need to do for our families. And those people who do have connectivity in the house, how can we push that out, or how do we help our parents understand that Verizon and a lot of the other phone carriers are offering free 2 months, a free service, but it takes a while to get on. So how do we help them get on? Okay. Curriculum, and we'll be talking about the different levels of PD that we're trying to offer that will help support the distribution of the devices to our kids. Again, once we have distributed the devices to the families, to the kids who have the connectivity, and you have gone through the PD that you need, because again, the easy part would be just said, here, I have iPads and Chromebooks for everybody. But if you don't know what to do or how to log in, and there's no expectations, they just sit there. So there's a reason why we've kind of been more systematic about trying to get this out. Plus, hope above hope. We were hoping maybe we really would be back in April 6th. But with the spread of COVID-19, the way that it's going across the country, and especially in LA County and in Whittier, that is not going to be a likelihood. The best way right now is for everyone to stay at home, and for us to kind of figure out how can we connect with our kids at home. So phase 4, we will begin our distance learning program, which we'll go over. And then the last piece is, how do we deliver new content, or how do we deliver and reinforce the content that's already been learned? Okay. The State Department just put out yesterday guidelines on grading. Do school districts go from pass to fail? Everything that you have questions of, the Department of Public Education is putting out guidelines. The county then disseminates those guidelines out to the school districts. I'm in close alignment with what the other elementary school districts do, and I'm talking to them every day, so that what we do is in alignment with the Whittier area as much as possible. Because the things that I do impact what happens in Whittier City and Little Lake, and vice versa. So we are sharing information and sharing resources, to help each other through this. So my hope and intent is, as I am working with my fellow superintendents, you see this as an opportunity to reach out not only within your school, but also across the district, and say, in this state of crisis, which we are in, how can we best support each other and deliver this on behalf of our kids, keep our anxiety down as staff members about what is expected, but also feel good about, I'm still maintaining contact with my kids. I'm helping them know that I care about them, I love them, and I'm delivering the instructional content that I'm required to deliver. Okay, so that's a little bit from my perspective of what the game plan is from the districts and what we're trying to do. I want to switch and move over to Will as he kind of breaks it down a little bit more in terms of what might and how is this going to be rolled out.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. Real briefly, I want to kind of go over the distance learning plan. As the superintendent said, it's still learning. It's just that the method of which we're learning now is remote. And so a lot of you have been doing that already. As we know, public education has and will fundamentally change through all of this. And the good thing to note is that a lot of you have already been doing some things with technology to incorporate more technology. There we go. Somebody else just jumped on, sorry about that. And so we're not doing anything radically different. It's just how we're delivering that is very different. And so we're going to kind of go over that today here. I'm going to go through 5 different elements and just give you a 5,000-foot overview, not to get into the details, because one of the things we don't want you to take away is that we're mandating. The state has not mandated anything for LEAs. The state has said, educate kids as best as possible, and we're here to support you. Same thing from the district office. We're going to provide you some resources, some frameworks, so that we can kind of just minimize some of your searching, but we're asking you to remain professionals, as you have been, in educating your students. So 5 things I want to touch base on is what's the instructional framework? Number 2, what are the educational resources that are out there? Number 3 is roles and expectations that you all have been saying in your surveys. Well, what's my expectation? What's my motivation now? What am I supposed to do in this new world? So we'll give some overview for that. And then we're going to talk about the professional learning opportunities. That is going to grow throughout this time period. We have some already curated, we'll share out, but that professional learning will take place online. And then last but not least, what's happening with devices. So those are the 5 areas I'm going to touch base on today. Just to put a little more detail to what's the plan and what has been the plan. Oh, by the way, we will be sharing this presentation with you. Recording will be posted, but also before you exit in the chat, we will provide this Google slide presentation for everyone who's on there. You can download it at the end. But right here, I want to just kind of delineate what's happening at different phases. Because I know a lot of us like, what about this? What about this? What about this? Okay, we're doing it, and we're doing it very linearly so that you, the professional, aren't caught off guard. So the parents aren't caught off guard, and we don't increase anybody's stress level. So you can see right now, we're basically the week of April 20th through May 4th. Teachers, you already have packets going out, 2-week packets. You got the new ones getting ready to go out again. Classified, we'll be talking about how can you help support instruction and what does that look like as we move into distance learning. The official kickoff of distance learning, we are targeting April 6th, next week. And what does that look like? I'll get into that in a moment. But also starting next week, we'll have a menu of online professional development opportunities that you can take online. Professional learning where you can learn how to maybe do a Zoom, do a Google Classroom, Google certification, or maybe New Zealand. So we'll have those links available in that public for everyone to see. So those are some of the things, just big strokes of what we've been doing at each phase of this distance learning plan. Excuse me. The instructional framework, first and foremost, is post-em instruction. One of the things the state has reiterated on every call at every level is that we need to be equitable in our instruction. In other words, not every student has a Chromebook. Not every student has internet access at home. So post-em instruction, as we go to distance learning, we do want to post things, and we're not telling you only one method, depending on the age appropriateness. Maybe it's through Class Dojo, maybe it's through Seesaw, maybe it's through Google Classroom. But posting that stuff online, this does not mean we're not going to have packets. The instructional packets will have to be done every 2-week period, especially in light of those kids who don't have internet access. Posting on Class Dojo, Seesaw, and Google Classroom is just taking that paper copy and making it electronic. So that's the first pillar of our framework. The second piece, which a lot of you have already been doing, use the publisher materials. You have Benchmark Advanced, you have Study Sync, you have Expressions, you have Connect Ed. For math and English is our primary focus at this time. Go ahead and use those materials. We also have those publishers doing online PDs so that you can access the online components that some of you have been doing a great job already of, but using that so you're not reinventing the wheel. Maybe you don't want a textbook in the house. You can go online and get a lot of your materials from these publishers. Third, we do need to differentiate instruction. If you're anything like us and the students are like you and like us, the same old thing gets to be boring. Here's the same thing. Well, we've already started curating a variety of resources that you can use. So for example, if you haven't heard, LA Unified did a partnership with PBS SoCal, where there's instructional content that goes almost 24 hours a day, where you as a teacher can have your kids plug in on the TV and watch something and then respond, be it with an essay or learning new material. So that's another resource. In ClassLink, we've already put out there for students a variety of software, online software that's free, that students can go in and use to supplement whatever other instruction you have out there. And then we are in contact with San Diego County Office of Education, Riverside County Office of Education, LA County Office of Education. A lot of people have a lot of resources, and we'll be sharing those things with you. So the whole thing is, how do we keep you from reinventing the wheel? How do we provide you a menu of things so that you can just pull from it and work with your students? So that's the instructional framework that's going to set up our distance learning program. As I talked about the resources, the 4 elements of the resources are the TV. So if they don't have internet, there is TV educational sources out there. The second is the supplemental resources down the bottom right, which I talked about. The third is the online sessions up at the top left, where maybe it's a Google Hangout or Meet, maybe it's a Zoom, maybe it's a Snapchat, as some of you all have been savvy enough to figure out how to Snapchat in the session with kids. Hey, that's fine. Let's get them where they are, and let's help them go to where we want them to go instructionally. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the instructional packets are not an option. That is a must. That is the foundation. And then the electronic portion is just putting it out there in different ways where parents and students can access that information. For those of you who have kids at home, like myself, you know that they're not necessarily going to go on their own accord and do homework and look at the class stuff. So we want to make it out, put it out there so parents can help reinforce and help our kids get out from under the TV or just not play games all day long. We want to keep that academic cognitive development taking place. That's the goal. Okay, so roles and responsibilities for our teachers, 5,000-foot overview, we're asking 9 things. Just essentially this: communicate with your students and families. Most of you all have been doing that. Second thing, equitable instruction, making sure that we provide instruction that meets all our students of different ethnicities, social, economic, our language differences, as well as our students with learning disabilities. So just making sure that we provide an equitable instructional program for all of our kids. Weekly instructional packets, this doesn't mean you do it every week. We're going to continue to do it once every 2 weeks. But if you want to go ahead and just do a packet for the week in terms of the overview, that's fine, or daily, but we're going to give them out once every 2 weeks and continue that program that you've been doing already. We're asking that teachers do weekly online sessions, live instruction with kids. We don't want the device to become an electronic pacifier or electronic teacher. They still need that human interaction. They need you to monitor, to get some formative feedback so you can help them navigate what they're doing correctly, what they're not doing correctly, providing that feedback so they can still learn academically. We're asking you to support the distance learning program. We're asking that you participate in online PD. So as the superintendent said, you're not working 8 hours a day. There'll be various sessions that may be a 30-minute session, an hour session. It's an online session about math. Maybe it's about English. Maybe it's about science. Maybe it's about how to use technology. But there's a variety of things we're going to make available for you to go ahead and jump on. As a lot of you have been doing already, we're asking you to interact with your colleagues. Keep interaction going between you and your grade level peer, your district peers. And we've already heard some great stories from people who've been using Zoom to do things collaboratively. The middle school, hats off to you guys and what you've been doing, because you've been doing it across departments, across grade levels, using Zoom and demonstrating and helping each other get there. There's stories across the board, but continue doing that. That's what we're asking you to do. We're asking that you participate in Zoom staff meetings with your principals. Principals will be working to do this weekly so that you can get the information real time and not just rumors. What are the changes? What are the expectations? What's happening? So those weekly calls, we ask that you participate in those. And then we're asking that you track student participation. What does that look like? The state has not defined what that looks like, but the state has told us that we do need to track participation, but they haven't given us any specifics. So as that comes available to us, we'll be sharing that with you. And we're just asking that on a weekly basis, you track their participation. It could be through online attendance. It could be through assignments turned in. It could be through emails, But as we get more of that information, we'll share it out with you in a concrete format. But this is what the expectations are coming down from the state. For our TOSAs, they have their teachers, and they still have the expectation of communicating with students and families. They will be helping in terms of creating sample daily and weekly schedules, supporting teachers that they've already been doing, supporting teachers with instructional packets. Hey, how do I access this piece of benchmark? Or how do I navigate through this? Or how do I get my kids onto Waterford? Providing support so students can get instruction. They will be facilitating online sessions as well for staff, providing some professional learning opportunities based on the trainings that they've gone to, the information that they have coming directly from our vendors and our publishers. They are expected to participate in online PD, just like everyone else. This is an opportunity for the entire district to grow. And so we're going to take the next 8 weeks for us to do that kind of growth. And that medium will be through online. They are going to be interacting with their colleagues through Zoom. And they'll be participating in staff meetings as well, supporting principals, supporting you, and being a part of that. And then they will continue to go look for online resources. So part of their role is to help vet what stuff is free, what stuff is not free, what stuff is real, so that if you have a question about it, they're going to go do that dirty work to kind of help streamline that process for teachers and staff. Instructional assistants. We're asking that you communicate with families, students and families. We understand that there is a barrier right now with devices, and we'll speak to that later on. We're asking that you continue to roll up providing academic support for students, partnering with teachers and doing that. We're asking you also participate in professional development, opportunity to pick up some skills. Like some of you all, the Zoom is new, and that opportunity to learn and grow. We want you to grow because you are a part of the staff. We all need to grow together. So everyone is expected to be in PD. You can see interact with site staff and district colleagues, and then as well participate in Zoom meetings. Staff meetings, excuse me. Site administrators, what will they be doing during this time? They will be supporting you with technology, curriculum, etc. They will be conducting and facilitating PD, especially in terms of the different diversity issues that we want to accomplish and supporting students of different learning needs. They'll be helping there. They're going to participate in and facilitate PDs, excuse me. They are going to be monitoring student participation. For anyone who heard LA Unified School District Superintendent on the news yesterday or 2 days ago, the question was, well, how many students are online? And it was alarming when he mentioned that over 40% haven't checked in. And he said, but that's okay because we have this number that have checked in. And so we're just going to work on getting more people involved with students involved with checking in, getting into learning. And that's the same place we're going to be. So we need our principals to monitor that with the information you provide so they can make phone calls home, so they can get in contact with the parents, so we can continue to make sure the achievement gap does not increase. We have been doing a great job in Los Nietos closing the achievement gap. We don't want this to create a situation where it exacerbates that achievement gap to where when we come back, we have to start from scratch. So we need to monitor that participation. They'll be communicating with families. Principals they'll convene teams to identify PD needs. We don't know all of your needs as a district office. We know some related to the plan, but as they talk with you, as they work with you and identify some of those others, they'll be sharing that so we can get you the support you need. They're interacting and have been for a couple of weeks now since everything started with their district colleagues, but also they'll be continuing to host interactive Zoom meetings. Now, 5,000-foot view of different things. And do we expect you to memorize all this? No. We have already started putting together a district website, a Google site, which provides information for parents and teachers. And so on that site, we have this information for parents. What is distance learning? To provide some details so that they can know what to expect. How many hours a week should students be working per grade level. And so this is not anything that is passed down from the state. This has been curated from conversations that we've been having with assistant superintendents of curriculum through Whittier, through AXA Region 5, throughout the state, where they say TK is roughly 4 to 6, kinder through first is roughly 10 hours a week, second through third grade, 12 to 15 hours a week of work, fourth and sixth, 15 hours a week, and then seventh and eighth, roughly 20 hours a week worth of work. Now, it doesn't mean that's all work where they're independently working. That's also working with the teacher through online, et cetera. And so we're just putting this out there to kind of help people gauge how much work are we looking at? How much time is going to be involved on a weekly basis with distance learning? And that's on the website. Also on the website, we have for teachers more details about the roles, expectations, and how to. You see there's resources there. So we have it already where you can click on the link to go to PBS SoCal. We have the webinar sessions there. We have stuff for a variety of resources. You can click and get immediate access to that information. Here we have the details of the curriculum framework with the resources spelled out. For the sake of our conversation and time, I'm not going to go through all the details, but next week we'll be making this public. We're putting the final touches on it now, but you will have access to it where you can click to your appropriate grade level and find all the information with the details for resources and expectations. Last but not least, you can see here on that site, we do have a PD schedule. So you can click here and you can see by week at the bottom, you'll be able to go and see what's available. And so it's just not for teachers, it's for all staff. What's some of the availability that's out there for what PD is going on? How can I sign up? And the link will be there for you to be able to register or sign up for that PD. Device distribution. I'll start in the bottom right corner. What we've done has been incredible. So thanks to you all and thanks to our tech department, we've already collected somewhere to the tune of about 500 of our older Chromebooks that are close to being decommissioned because just technology is changing and Google's making changes. But they are great devices that still can go out to our students for the loaner program. So the techs are working right now to sanitize them, to get those things ready. They will have security on them. We still will have GoGuardian so we can monitor and help make sure that students aren't going to inappropriate sites. Okay, so we aren't going to just give, an open Chromebook to a kid and let them go all over the place and create that drama. We're still trying to provide some safety. So that's some of the prepping that's going on right now. Through the surveys, we've identified, with your help, we have almost 500 parents who've responded to the staff surveys in less than a week. Out of those 500, approximately 200 have said they need a device. So those are going to be our first round of people who we're looking to get devices to. Our goal is to start next Wednesday doing our first round of releasing devices to students. We are finishing our Chromebook loaner policy, what the details of that needs to be, and getting board approval. So we'll get more information to you as that gets finalized, but next Wednesday is the goal for that. So while you are working on your skills, how you want to incorporate technology, we're working on getting the devices together so they can coincide with you pushing out online content. And then last but not least is staff. We know some of our instructional assistants doing academic support on a cell phone is not going to work. We know that. So we're looking at some of our other devices that we have that are not Chromebooks. And as those who've identified in a staff survey, they need a device, we'll be providing those to people who are interacting with students who are providing academic support. We'll be having a loan program where you can take, for the remainder of the school year, a device home so you can interact with colleagues on a computer as well as with students. As the superintendent said, and you guys probably have all heard, is that the state has basically been waiving the assessments. So it's not official yet because of the process. The state has applied for a waiver for this year's testing. Once the federal government, U.S. Department of Education says California is waived, the announcement will come out and we won't have it. But for all intents and purposes, we're not testing this year. This year will be an asterisk. They've also, on the LPAC summative, they've released that summative testing has been suspended for the rest of the year. They are not worried about the results. They've canceled all results training, and that will be an asterisk as well. But what they will hold us responsible for is once we return, any new students who are identified as English being a second language will need to be LPAC initially assessed. And so that won't be a burden to most of the staff members on the call. Most of that will still be done by the TOSAs, so it won't impact you in the classroom, but that is the expectation from the state. And as the superintendent alluded to earlier, grading. What's the grading? This Department of Education has said this: we are not going to penalize any kids during this time period for their academics. That's been the broad statement. There has been no real definitives other than that, except for as of yesterday, when they said for those kids going to UC CSUs who are graduating, the UCs and CSUs were going to accept fourth quarter grades as credit, no credit. So for those who are matriculating, they won't hold this grading period against them. Credit, no credit. What does that mean for us? Once again, it is provide the best cognitive instructional program possible. We're not going to be giving letter grades during this time period. It's about keeping them safe and providing them some cognitive stimulation to minimize the achievement gap between us and other kids. So that's the primary focus. As we get more information, we'll share it out with you, but those are things that are out there when it comes to the instructional program and the academics. At this time now, I'll turn it over to Raymond in our special ed department to give you an update on special ed.
Good morning, everyone. First off, I just want to say thank you to all the special teachers for everything that you're doing. In my conversations with some of you, and I know that all of you are thinking outside of the box, trying to be creative in providing the support to our students. So I do appreciate that. With that said, I do want to say that we are in an uncharted territory because special ed is not designed for distance learning. However, given the circumstances, we have to be able to make it equitable for our special education students. Whatever that we're giving to the general education students, it has to be equitable for them as well. And we need to figure out how to support them appropriately given the circumstances. So it is a fluid process. And we are currently receiving updates. And I've been doing a lot of conferences with LACO, with WhatsApp, and literally the information changes by the minute. However, I know that there are a couple of pressing issues that you guys have been asking. So that's why I'm going to go over some of the pressing issues that I have heard from all of you. So of course, the big one is the legal compliance issues. What are we going to do since students are not at school? We have no access to students. What do we do with initials, triennials, annuals, parent requests, IEPs? And how do we deliver our special education services? So these are the points that I wanted to touch on. So the next two slides, well, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you to move on to the next slide. Annual IEPs, yes. So in consultation with our WhatsApp attorney, we have determined that timeline is paused. So as of now, we are not holding any annual IEPs. We will wait until school reopens, then the IP team can convene to hold the annuals. And when we do hold the annuals when school reopens, the attorney's suggestion is that we keep a default IP date instead of the date that the IP team actually meets. So for example, you have a student whose IP is due in April and you meet in August, for instance. You are not going to change the IP date to August. You're still going to keep the IP date as April. However, we also have a Zoom meeting just yesterday, and we talk about the number of annuals and triennials and initial assessments that are coming up, and how are we going to handle all the assessment requests and the IEPs that we have to hold in addition to what's already been on the books for the next school year. So this is still a work in progress, and our attorneys will look into what will be feasible for us in terms of us just pausing on all the IEPs for annuals. So as I have more information, I will definitely let you guys know as well. Okay, so the next one is initials and triennials. And for this one, we have a more clear directions on where we're going, because for initials and triennials, we are required to do assessments. And the students are not available for us. We have no access to students. So for now, I can tell you that the timeline is definitely paused, and we will be able to resume the testing once school reopens. Okay, so we heard a lot about the Senate Bill 117 about school dismissals. So I don't want to go into details with you about what Senate Bill is, but basically what it says is that school dismissal doesn't count as regular school days. So we will not be penalized if we go beyond the 6-day timeline. And that CDE will not find us liable for going out of the timeline. And at this time, though, the school psychologists may still continue to review the records and interview parents or teachers and staff members as part of the assessments that they have coming up. So they may still be in contact with you. Okay. And the next one is that I want to talk about what the delivery model, service delivery model will look like. So as you know, in special education, we have so many different groups. We have the RSP, we have the SDC mild moderate, SDC mild severe. We also have speech, we have APE, OT, PT. So in all the different service providers, I have to come up with a model, delivery model for them. So that's what I've been getting a lot of conference calls and a lot of Zoom meetings with all the neighboring districts and LACOs, WACSEP, trying to figure out what would be most appropriate for our students. How can we best support our students given the circumstances and the resources that we have? And every district, I can tell you, is doing things differently because they have to do what is appropriate for their student population. And what's appropriate for them may not be appropriate to Los Nietos. Okay, but I do want to talk a little bit about the SII minutes for our special education teachers. So this is kind of the guidelines that we have put together. So for the SDC service delivery models, we have the mild mod, and then we have the mod severe. So for the mild mod, which is K through 8, so our recommendation is to provide 60 minutes of SAI for each student. So that's per week. And keep in mind that the delivery or the services can take into different kinds, different forms. So it can be putting together a homework packet, enrichment projects. It can be a phone consultation, checking in with the parents, or even doing a Zoom sessions with the students just to see how they're doing, if they have any questions about the work that's been provided. And so that's the virtual service. Or if you collaborate with other service providers, that all counts as part of the 60 minutes, which is 1 hour a week. So this is the modes of service. Anything that you do relating to the distance learning activity will count towards that. So that's our recommendations for SDC, mild, moderate. And for SDC, moderate to severe, which is on the other column, the yellow column. So I have spoken to all the, most of the SDC mod severe teachers, and we all agree that 120 SNI minutes will be doable. That's per students per week. And our STC mod severe teachers, when I have the conversations with them, I realize that they're doing a lot for the students. They're putting together a lot of packets. They're constantly checking in with their students, with the parents as well, so they can easily meet that 120 minutes. if they're not going above. And just based on my conversation with them, I have a feeling that they have already gone above the 120 SI minutes per week just for their students. So I do want to say a big thank you for all the SDC Montessori teachers, because you guys have the most difficult population to work with. Okay, and again, the mode of service, we're talking about the same thing. Anything that's related to what you are doing for the distance learning can count towards those 120 minutes. So it can be packets, can be phone consultation, virtual service. If they want to do a Zoom or Google Hangout with their students or with their parents, they can definitely do that, because each student is unique and each student is very different. So it's not a one size fits all, but it is more of a guideline for you guys to understand the framework of how we're going to deliver the specialized academic instruction. So that's for the SDC delivery model. So the next slide will be the RSP service model. So this one is going to look a little different, because we have to remember that RSP students are basically general education students, and they are in general education for the majority of the time. So the services will look a little different. We need to determine what their needs are. So what we have recommended or decided upon is two different service delivery models. We have the indirect service and we have the direct service. So for the indirect service, it's basically for consultation services. It can be about 15 minutes, 4 times a week, to just check in with your students and with your parents, and just to see how they're doing, because they're getting the packets from the general education teachers. So the role of RSP is really to support the students in accessing the general education curriculum. So they're there to support what the homework packets have been given to them and what they need to practice in. So if you have a student who just needs a little bit of support, but can function in general education most of the time, and that consultation service may be appropriate. And again, it is something that you do need to think about and discuss with the team and with the parents, or if the parents agree that this is the most appropriate level of support to give to their students at the time, then you can certainly recommend the consultation services. And you can also do the direct services. And that is when you Zoom in, do a Zoom session, do a Google Hangout. And I know some of the RSP teachers are already doing that. So they're helping the students working on the packets that they have received from their general education classrooms. So this is certainly an option. And for that virtual service, what we are recommending is that for the actual minutes, it will be 25% of the SI minutes that they actually get during the normal school year. So for example, if you have a student who received 60 minutes of RSP service a week, so that will be reduced to 25 minutes of virtual service. So, but that is not to say that you are only allowed or required to go 15 minutes. You can definitely go beyond that if you feel that the students need that bit of support. They may need more time for you to reteach the information or to help you chunk the information, checking for understanding, for you to provide the accommodations that they need in order for them to be able to access the curriculum. So that will be the virtual services. And as part of the virtual services, you may feel that you want to send home supplemental instructions or materials for the students to practice. Let's say if they really struggle with phonics and you want to give them some information, worksheet, definitely consider that, but talk to your general education teachers first, because we don't want to overwhelm the students. And they may also receive packets from other service providers. So if we give them a lot, that will be too overwhelming. So definitely consider that and collaborate with the general education teacher. If you feel that it's appropriate to send home supplemental instructions, then you can certainly do that. So that's basically what we are talking about with regards to the SI minutes. And next we'll have the related service providers. So the services are different in nature when we think about SI minutes. So the services can provide in different platforms. So it can be telepractice, which is basically you do a Zoom sessions with the students and you work on the skills, you work on the goals with them. or you can do a learning packet, or you can do consultation. And keep in mind that there are a lot of moving parts that I have to consider, because we do have contracted agencies, and we do need to think about, what are our available resources. If we were to go to telepractice, we have to think about, is the student appropriate? Are they able to access the device? Do they need adult supervision while you're doing the sessions with them? How much of a supervision is required? Are any adults available during that time? Do we need to teach adults how to access the device? Do they have internet connection? So there are so many moving parts when we consider telepractice. And learning packets at this time is something that we can definitely do. And I know that the speech group has provided enrichment packets to send home to the students, and which I do have a copy of. But I would say that for speech, and especially for Michelle and Jamie, definitely, start looking at the goals, what their goals are, and think about the different kinds of activities that you can put together to address the goals. And I will be meeting with each group separately to talk about how we're going to roll it out. So the decisions will be finalized in the coming days. And I do want the related service providers to collaborate and coordinate with the case managers, so that the case managers are aware of what kind of services that they will be getting, and whether they have received the services, whether the homework has been received or gets sent home, and whether they have completed the packets, if they have any questions, and who they can talk to, making sure that parents have the ability to get a hold of the related service providers if necessary. So this is basically what I'm working on in terms of related service providers. And I have sent an email to our APE teachers whom we contracted from Whittier City, I believe. So they're going to talk to me about what they think they can provide in terms of distance learning for APE. And for counseling, and I know that the psychologists have gone together and are talking about maybe putting some lessons together in a Google Classroom for the students to access. They also talk about telehealth. So they're definitely working on continuing the DIS counseling. So if you have students who are receiving DIS counseling through the school psychologists, know that they will continue to do that. And they can also check in with their students, with your students, or available for consultation. If you have a parent who is asking about maybe some support with the behaviors at home, you can also consult with your school psychologist as well. Okay, so these are basically some of the urgent issues that I have heard from the special education department overall. And I want to say that I will meet with you separately to discuss more in depth. Because of the nature of this meeting, I cannot go into details, but rest assured that every different service providers are doing different things, so I will meet with you differently, okay? And the last thing that I want to really look at is the COVID-19 family resources. So this has been put on the website. And what I want to say is as a special thank you to Krishna Varela, and I hope that she's online because she helped me put this together and she designed everything. So there are a lot of resources and links that parents and students can go to for the support, just family resources for crisis, for housing, any community linkage. So please utilize that website and refer your parents to the website. But I will also encourage you to just take a look at what's been put on that website so you have some familiarity with it and can really, convey that information to your parents as well. Okay, so that is basically it.
Jonathan?
Yeah. For those of you guys who have hung in there, and I still see there's 99 here, and again, thank you for those folks who are making comments on the group, the Zoom chat. Will has been responding real time as much as possible. I'm getting used to it too, so I was reading them as well. Hopefully a lot of the questions that you posted got answered. If not, we will share with the appropriate people. A lot of things prior to Raymond speaking were about special education. For special educators, the big thing is just maintain contact, okay? The state and feds are saying services to our special need kids need to be equitable with regards to what we are giving to general ed kids. So again, as long as you can maintain and log that you are contacting them on a base level, then we can start worrying about what does the delivery system look like, okay? And that's what we're asking for our general education teachers as well. We went over a little bit, but we had a lot of information. My hope is to do this on a fairly regular basis. Again, I anticipate probably next Friday making the announcement that I will recommend to the board to close the schools for the remainder of the year. But as I mentioned prior to Will speaking, I don't want to do that until the website and the things are live. And how do I get a Chromebook if my kids can't go to school? What am I supposed to do? So that's the devil in the details, that once we have that, then that's what the intent is, so again, that's where we're headed for. But probably by next Friday, that's the game plan. So again, the baseline of just maintaining contact with the kids is just where I'm asking as we move forward. Many of you have surpassed that already. Many of you are willing to do that. You just have not had the training, or just like I have gone through, fumbling through this large Zoom meeting. You just have to play with it, and you just have to get comfortable with it. So the intent is to provide you lots of opportunities to help learn those skills, and to feel comfortable either making videos. I know teachers have made videos and posted them so kids can learn how to do the instruction. That works as well. So again, as Will said, the State Department and LACO has said, do the best you can. We want you to extend the learning process. And it's not that school is not in session. So although they're not putting in a lot of mandates, what you will hear consistently is school is still in session, instruction still is going on. So that is what we are trying to do, provide you the framework. My last piece before we close today is I get the information, Will and I get the information, Doug gets the information, Raymond gets information, we share it with your principals. Your principals then disseminate to you. The expectation, again, is that you meet with your principals on a weekly basis so that you're up to date of what is going on, and can ask the questions, and they can give us the feedback of what you need during this process. Many of you have my cell phone number. You've already texted me while I'm talking. I appreciate that. If there's confidential things that you need to speak to me about with regards to, Jonathan, here's what's going on in my personal life, and I just needed to ask a question, I'll be posting some websites on the employee under CSCA and LNTA with regards to the EASE program. If you're feeling really stressed out, it's something that is offered through the county, as well as the Department of Public Health has put out a hotline. If you feel really stressed out, who can you talk to? Or again, if you just need to have a conversation with your own personal situation, email me. Let me know what your situation is and I can get back to you. But something outside of the bounds of what you normally could handle with the principal. If you need support with regards to help me understand something, help me understand something I'm not clear, or here's my particular situation, let me know. And again, with some of these things, as they're Zooms and we have people, as you meet with your staff, if you need clarification on something, you can invite me to come to these things as well. I'm still working. We're all working here either from home. It costs nothing for me to pop in. So as I'm trying to read everybody's group chat stuff, if you are having a school meeting or a job alike meeting with a special ed person and want me to jump in to answer clarification, just email the appropriate person and be happy to do that. With regards to extended school year, this just popped up. I don't know. I can't imagine that this thing is going to be happening, going to be done in May, and suddenly it's going to be done in June. The models that we're seeing are the next 2 weeks is when it's supposed to blow up. And again, just less than 20 days from 28 cases in LA County to 3,000, and we're not even at the hot spot yet. So I can't imagine that for those of you who depend on having extended school year as part of your finances for the summer. Just be thinking that may not be a possibility, even if we were to do extended school year, possibly for the special needs kids, but in an online setting is what I heard this morning from the LACO superintendent and the county person in charge of special education. So it's still too early to decide. As I hear more information, I will let you know. What I'm telling you right now is I anticipate the school will be closed for the remainder of the year. I don't anticipate, if we were to start summer school, I can't imagine that we would do anything other than virtual. We would not bring anybody here at school when we're supposed to maintain safe distancing. So again, those are the things that I know as of today. But as Raymond, as well as I have said, everything changes daily, hourly. So our hope is that we will get a good time that this is available. We could talk to you. We will shorten our statements to allow for more conversations, or at least through the chat, be able to respond in a more quick time frame. Okay. So at the end of the day, thank you again for your hard work. I know you're working. It's very stressful as human beings and as parents. I know it's stressful worrying about your own families and being at home and having ambiguity, but I appreciate you guys stepping up to the challenge to meet the needs of the kids in the district. Again, your salaries are being paid. We are in a better shape than a lot of people in California and the country, and definitely we're in a lot of better shape than our parents. So as we try and handle our own anxiety, that's something I really want all of you to, please keep in mind. As scary and as hard as things are for us right now with the ambiguity, our kids are at home with their parents and may have lost their job, who are hungry, and whatever we could do to step out of our comfort zone and our fearfulness of looking silly or being stupid, making a mistake on a Zoom conference, please let's try and keep that in context, that it's okay, because maybe if we can make a kid laugh today and feel comfortable, we did our job. Okay, so thank you again for today. We look forward to speaking with you again.
I'm all done now. Okay. Thank you for being patient and waiting.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's get some lunch going. Okay.
My hands are broken.
Hi, Duffy. Hi, Palmer.
Hi, guys.